Then we switch gears to back to America. All right. And he gets into the American economy. And this was a nightmare for several different reasons. Let's take a listen to the cut we have on it.
My plan, Bill, if you don't mind, my plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class, and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations.
But we're dealing with the real world here. How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, they don't. No one does. Literally nobody knows what you're talking about. We've tried. We've tried harder than anyone on this show. We go through it word by word every time you speak. We're still unclear. All right, let me back up. So he gets into the economy and he kicks it off in a question you did not hear there, where he says, there are a lot of signs the American economy is doing very well, better than most countries, I think. But the American people don't seem to be feeling it. Groceries are 25% higher, and people are blaming you and Joe Biden for that. Are they wrong? So this is actually a present by Bill Whitaker to Kamala Harris. The economy's doing really well, better than most countries. But some people don't seem to feel it, and it's probably because of those high groceries. That's what our problems are limited to now, high groceries. He knows very well that she has this stupid plan that she all but abandoned because economists on the left and the right came out and said, what the F are you saying? The groceries being high is not a price gouging problem. But that was her very first economic speech. Remember she gave? She got lambasted by the left and the right, and she's stuck to it since then as though this is a real plan. So he gives her the opportunity. Groceries, you know what the answer to this one is, Kamala. Groceries are still up 25% higher, and some people are blaming you. Are they wrong? This was a gift to her. He absolutely could have done a much harder hitting question on this, and I think missed an opportunity. Murderer's Row would have done it. And just wrote down a couple of stats as I was thinking about how would I have gotten after this. Gas prices are $1 higher right now per gallon than they were under Donald Trump. Inflation was up 19% for the first several years of the Biden-Harris administration. Under Donald Trump, it was around 6% for his first 42 months. If you compare the first 42 months for each, 19% under you, 6% under Trump. The stock market right now is producing a return of about 11.5%. Under Trump, it was 16.5%. Electricity costs are up 25% versus where they were under Donald Trump. I have news for you, Bill Whitaker. It isn't just a feeling that people are having. It's actual expenses that they're seeing in their monthly balance sheet, in their monthly checking account, in their panic when they go, yes, to the grocery store, but also to the gas station, when they check their 401ks, and when they have to pay their electric bill at the end of the month. So it's more than just the feels. And when crafting a tough question, you know exactly how to, you don't leave her wiggle room. You throw the numbers at her, and then it's not, are people wrong about their feeling? It's what do you say to people who look at those statistics and say, I was better off under Donald Trump? That's the question. All right. So what does she say? She's like, great. It appears we're both on the same page about how great things are. And she expands right on, right? She says, we now have historic low unemployment in America. Among all groups of people, we have an economy that's thriving by all macroeconomic measures. I got 10-1. She doesn't know what macroeconomic means. And to your point, prices are still too high. And I know that we need to deal with it, which is why part of my plan, you mentioned groceries, Bill. She was like, thank you. Part of my plan is what we must do to bring down the price of groceries. So now they make an edit, and Bill jumps in just to summarize it. Harris says she'll press Congress to pass a federal ban on price gouging for food and groceries, but details are yet to be defined. Okay, but he does not offer anything along the lines of the pushback I just outlined for you, that she was ripped by economists on the left. Remember that Washington Post piece we went through in detail on the show where the woman was like, hey, pro tip, when they're calling you a communist, maybe don't make your first speech about communist-like policies, including price controls, especially when the grocer's margin is only less than 1 percentage point on their markups. What exactly is Kamala Harris and Congress going to do to pull back on that huge margin to change things for you at the grocery store? Nothing. There's nothing they can do. Inflation caused the high prices. Her out-of-control spending caused the high prices. And that's the unsaid gorilla between the two of them, not raised by Bill Whitaker. So then he switches to some of what you heard. You want to expand the child tax credit. You want to give tax breaks on first-time homebuyers and to people starting small businesses. But it is estimated by this nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget that your economic plan would add $3 trillion to the federal deficit over the next decade. How are you going to pay for that? She says, well, other economists have reviewed my plan versus my opponent and determined my plan would strengthen America's economy. His would weaken it. That is not an answer to how are you going to pay for it. My plan would strengthen America's economy. His would weaken it. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Then she goes on. My plan is saying that when you invest in small businesses, you heard this part, when you invest in the middle class, filler, empty, and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of the American economy. So to his credit, he does follow up. The question was, how are you going to pay for it? And then she goes back to this tired old trope we've heard from Democrats forever. Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. That is a lie. That is not happening in this economy. The billionaires and the richest among us are paying a much bigger tax rate than the nurses and the firefighters. I mean, it's just been documented over and over and over again. And the only way she thinks, and Biden has said in the past, that they can get away with this is if you consider unrealized gains on their investments. So if you say, oh, you've got this much money in the stock market, and if you cashed out right now with prices being at whatever, the stock market being wherever, you would make this much money. But as everybody who has a 401k knows, that's not the way investments work. Most people keep them in their long term and they use them as a retirement account, including a millionaire. And they don't withdraw them. You know, nobody knows when peak is going to be. And we don't force them to pay taxes, although she would like to, on unrealized gains. So only if you included imaginary profits off of investments that are sitting in the stock market can you ever get to even an argument that they have a lower tax rate than anybody. The reality is that they pay around 30% in their tax rate. Those billionaires, those millionaires, all right? You've got an average income tax rate, at least in 2021. This is according to the Tax Foundation, of 14.9%. The top 1% paid 25.9% average rate, which is nearly 8 times higher than the 3.3% average rate paid by the bottom half of taxpayers. All right, so you've got about 26% versus 3.3%. It's just a lie, what she says. And she says it all the time, and so did Biden. Here's some more for you. At the bottom of the earning brackets, there's 0% tax, 0. In the middle, they're taxed under 15% of their income, and the top is taxed 30%. All right? Those are the real numbers. Yeah, there it is. The average tax rates at the top are at least 2 times the rate in the middle and 3 times the rate at the bottom. What she says is not true. There's no follow-up with that whatsoever. Nor is there any follow-up with even if you taxed all the billionaires and millionaires, virtually every dollar of what they make, it would not cover the costs of your plan. It would not cover all of these beautiful, wonderful gifts that you say you're going to give. Okay, so he goes a different route with it. He goes, let's assume your plan is going to work, which it's not. But let's assume it'll work. You're never going to get it passed because you need Congress. They have the power of the purse. That is like their one main power, the power of the purse. And you can't change the tax rates without their cooperation. And so he says, how are you going to get this through Congress? We're dealing with the real world here. And she goes to, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses. Their constituents are middle-class, hardworking folks. He says, and Congress has shown no inclination to move in your direction. And she just says, I disagree with you. That's how it ends. Being able to run your business on your schedule is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. If mailing items like legal documents, checks, or marketing materials takes up a lot of your time, Stamps.com is the time saver you need. Cut down hours spent mailing and shipping with Stamps.com and do it all on your own timeline. From small businesses to multi-location organizations, Stamps.com handles all your mailing and shipping needs wherever, whenever. Take care of mailing and shipping wherever you are, even on the go, with the Stamps.com address. All you need is a computer and a printer. That's all you need. They even send you a free scale. Easily schedule package pickups through your Stamps.com dashboard and automatically see the cheapest and fastest shipping options from different carriers. Get rates you can't find anywhere else, like up to 89% off USPS and UPS. Order supplies and even printers from the supply store when you run low. Sign up at Stamps.com and enter code MK for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. That's Stamps.com, code MK. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.